Hey y'all, join me today as I show you how to make a cabbage casserole pie. Now this was an experiment, but y'all, it turned out amazing. The first thing you're gonna do is get your cabbage ready. Now I'm using, it's about a small to medium head of cabbage. I've already cleaned it. I've already taken off the top layer of the cabbage. Now I'm going to use a knife and cut the cabbage into chunks. I'm cutting the cabbage into chunks because it's gonna make it easier when I shred the cabbage. Now, I'm gonna shred the cabbage using a cheese grater. The reason for that is because my husband worked nights last night and he's asleep, so I don't wanna wake him up with a noisy food processor. Now for this recipe, you're only going to need 4 cups of shredded cabbage. So if you have any cabbage left over, you can make that into a coleslaw. You can use it to make sauerkraut, or you can use it inside of homemade egg rolls. The possibilities are endless. Alright, I am done shredding the cabbage and now I'm going to move on to the onion. So you're going to be using 1 cup of a chopped white onion. And so I'm using my ulu to chop it up. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one. It makes chopping so much easier. On the stove, I have a large frying pan. And I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon of bacon grease. Now I like to use this grease, it's called Bacon Up. If you don't have any grease on hand from frying up some bacon, then Bacon Up is the way to go. So I'm gonna melt this over medium to medium-high heat. And while that is heating up, I'm going to get my pie crust prepared. The pie crust I'm using is Marie Callender's deep dish pie crust. To prepare it, I'm just following the directions on the back, and I'm going to poke holes in the bottom of the pie crust and also around the sides. And what this will do is, fingers crossed, it'll help prevent the pie crust from bubbling up. Back to the frying pan. So I'm going to add in my 1 cup of chopped white onion. And I'm also going to add in 4 cups of the shredded cabbage. Now to the onions and the cabbage, I'm going to be adding in salt and pepper. Now with the salt, I'm going to do about 4 good pinches because y'all, cabbage loves salt. We don't want to overdo it. You don't want it to taste like the ocean, but you do want to make sure you give it a good amount of salt, just to give it some good flavor. Now when it comes to pepper, I love pepper, so don't hold back. Make it as peppery as you want. Alright, so at this point, give everything a good stir so that the cabbage and the onions get coated nicely in the bacon grease, the salt, and the pepper. Now while the cabbage is cooking, I'm going to be placing the pie into a preheated 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. Now make sure your pie crust goes on the bottom rack during this first bake. So while the pie crust is in the oven, I'm going to taste the cabbage to see if I need to add any more bacon grease, any more salt, or any more pepper. And y'all, to me, it tastes perfect, but feel free to add more if you feel like it needs it. All right, y'all, you're gonna cook your cabbage until it has a crispy tenderness. So meaning you don't want your cabbage to be soggy, but yet you also don't want it to be super firm either. So it's like it's in between. This cabbage did not cook for very long, so again, taste it to see if the texture is just right, a crispy tenderness. So after the cabbage and onions have cooked, I'm now going to prepare more of the pie filling. So I'm going to use 10.5 ounces or 1 can of a cream of chicken soup. and I'm using the reduced fat cream of chicken soup just to save on calories. To the cream of chicken soup, you're going to add in 1 cup of mayo, and I'm using the light mayo again to save on calories. To this mixture, we're going to add in a pinch of salt and a pinch of pepper. And after that, give everything a good stir. So my pie crust is done, and I reduced the oven temp to 350 degrees. And now what I'm going to do is begin the layering process. So I'm going to start with the mayo and cream of chicken soup mixture. And I'm going to eyeball this, but I need to put about 1/3 on each layer. So we're going to have 3 layers of this mixture. Now when it comes to the cabbage, I'm only going to need 2 layers. So I'm going to spread out the cabbage in the pan and then just draw a line down the middle and separate it in half. All right, to the cabbage, I'm gonna add on more of the soup and mayo mixture. On top of that, I will add the last bit of the cabbage. And now one more time with the soup mixture. Now y'all, this pie gets pretty full, so make sure you purchase a deep dish crust and not a regular crust. Now I'm gonna set this off to the side so that I can prepare the topping. For the topping, you're going to melt 1/4 cup of butter. I'm using a low-calorie butter. And what I like about this butter is it's only 45 calories per tablespoon compared to 100 calories per tablespoon if you were to use regular butter. To the butter, I'm gonna add in a small sleeve of buttery crackers. If you can't find the small sleeve crackers, then just use half of a large sleeve. And make sure you crush up your crackers really well before you add it to the butter. To the butter and crackers, you're going to add in 1/2 cup of cheese. Now I'm using a reduced fat Mexican cheese blend, but you can use cheddar or whatever your favorite cheese is. Now with a spoon, give everything a good stir. And then you're going to take this mixture and you can either spoon it out on top of your pie, or the best utensils that we have is our hands. So that's what I'm going to end up using just to be able to spread the topping out more easily. This yummy deliciousness is going to go into a 350-degree oven for 40 minutes. All right, y'all, it's the moment of truth. Here we go. So remember I said this was an experiment, and it was an experiment because I took several different recipes that I had found and basically just combined them into one, and even some of my own ideas as well. So at this point, I'm gonna let the pie cool off just so that it can set. If you cut into it too quickly, because of the soup and mayo mixture, it's going to be kind of runny. So let it sit and cool for about 30 minutes or so before you cut into it. And y'all, I am telling you, this pie is right up there with my homemade tomato pie. It is amazing. I hope you give this a try. All right, y'all, it's time for the bloopers. Here we go.